Due to schedules, my husband and I now both have to work out at 5:30 a.m. at home. This has been fine other than our 4-year-old son has recently started waking up and not going back to bed unless I sleep with him. He's not one to let us sneak out either. Taking turns doesn't always work because he'll typically only go back to sleep if it's me in bed with him. This morning, he joined us in bed at 5 a.m. and then I just took him downstairs to our gym at 5:30. But I'm sure his teachers don't love his lack of sleep. So I guess my struggle is knowing when to bring the kid down to the gym or when to stay in bed with him so he gets more sleep. Also trying to find a way to not get frustrated that my quiet morning routine just won't be happening for a while. I do move and do cardio 2 times per week and usually only have 30-minute slots to get them in. We'll be diving into this question and quite a few more in today's Q&A episode. Welcome back to the Fitness League, helping busy humans build strong bodies, sharper minds, and better lives. Join us each week as we cut through the noise, challenge the norms, and empower you to train smarter and live stronger. Welcome back, everybody.
It's just me. No, everybody.
What? So you and Alessandra both think I'm talking to you every time I say that. I'm talking to the fam out here. I'm talking to the audience.
Fandom.
The fan, not the fan, the fam, F-A-M.
The fam.
We don't have fans, we got fam.
They are the Fitness League.
They are the Fitness League.
You
Welcoming
are the
those
Fitness
guys back.
League. Not
Appreciate you guys for being here. Me and Joelle are just kind of, steering the ship for the day. That's all.
Here we are. Alessandra steering the house for the day, and your
She's
children
steering
for
the house. We'll steer this ship.
Yep.
I think a lot of these questions. So we have a little hybrid today. I messed up. I posted the Q&A a little bit late last week, but I had asked for struggle questions. So we're going to be tackling a bunch of those in this episode, as well as just the general Q&A that I threw up this morning. But I think we can certainly relate to a lot of these. So it should be hopefully, a more relatable episode. We've been trying to sprinkle those in. Joelle had a good point for our last episode. It's like, it doesn't always have to be the data and the stats and here's how you do X, Y, and Z. It's just, this is our experience of a whole lot of stuff going on. And here are some things we're trying to do to figure it out.
Yeah, I think people like to just hear us live our lives. It's funny, when I was at the event that I spoke at last week, at the end of last week, we were broken out into these little small groups on the second day. So we got to have like these little intimate groups, and then everyone would rotate through and we'd have a new small group. And one of the girls in the small group, she was like, give it to me straight. I don't want to hear about all the, she's like, I already know all the amazing things that you've done and like what you guys are working on and all of that. She goes, I want you to tell me about the struggle. Like, I want you to walk me through the shit that you have been through. And I'm like, girl, we don't have enough time. But it's like, it's coming back to that. It's like, people want to hear, like, yes, you're here. If you're listening to this podcast, like, you're here because you want to learn. You're here because you probably don't hate me, Josh, or Alessandra. Or at least
Probably.
like 2 out of 3 2 out of 3 at least. And like, I think people like just hearing the real, the raw, the relatability, that we're just 3 idiots with a mic who are parenting and owning businesses and trying to take care of themselves. So sometimes it's fun to have obviously the science heavy episodes too, and the stats and things like that. But sometimes I just think it's more entertaining to listen to this style than heavy fact style.
Ain't nothing glorious about what we do and how we do it. It is just organized chaos on a daily basis. But we've learned some things through that chaos. So Katie, we hear you. This was Katie's question. So they both like to work out at 5:30 a.m. at home, and it is such a great way to start the day. And then you check that box and it's done. The kids tend to throw wrinkles into these, and it's funny. So we've got a full house over here, 3 kids, 2 dogs. Someone's always crying. Someone's always barking. Someone's always, splurting out one end or the other. And we're finally on a good schedule with the kids. Ironically, our youngest 2 are the best sleepers through the night and very low key. Yeah, my 6-year-old, I almost said 7-year-old. I'm skipping ages. My 6-year-old had a little bit of a reversion back to waking up in the middle of the night and like just staring at me and then like telling me he can't sleep. So that's been sporadic. But last week, my Cane Corso Italian Mastiff must have gotten into something, and she was spewing out both ends all hours of the night. And it happened like 2 times. It happened one night. She got a little better. Then she ate throw up that she found in the yard and started all over and had a ridiculous bout. So I was up all night, and it's just like, where is the break? When do we catch the break where everybody is on cruise control? We get through the night and we wake up feeling refreshed. From what I'm told, it's like 25 years after you have kids. I think it's like around that time, but it's a balancing game. So it's knowing
Yeah.
when to sleep in, it's knowing when to push through, and just kind of threading the needle. There is very rarely going to be smooth sailing. Like you'll hit it and then you'll find the next speed block. It's like driving to New York from Connecticut. Like, oh, we made it through, we're good. But that lasted 60 seconds. Like you just got to the speed limit and then there's brake lights and you're back into a parking lot. Don't get your hopes up. Just accept that. And I think however many years into this friendship and business partnership we've been, like that is now my mantra and my mindset going to your house. When we drive down there, it's like, this may take all day, and that's okay. We're together, we're healthy, we got some good tunes on. Like, it's just going to be a trip. And a lot of times, like the last couple of times, have been great drives. And it's
I was
like,
going to say, the time that you were just here, there and back, you guys made great time.
We did. And it's a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
So when you reframe, like this is the season
go in
of life.
with low expectations.
No expectations. It's just going to be what it's going to be, and we're going to figure it out. Just be flexible. Like when circling back to your routine and the workouts, like you just have to be flexible. You're going to miss some days. You're going to work out tired some days, and you're going to have a few weeks where this is wonderful, and then it's gone again. But that is the beauty of being a parent. That is the beauty of having responsibility. And it doesn't mean your health has to go to shit. Like you can still manage this. Do what you can with, I think you said you're doing the MOVE program, you're doing cardio a couple days a week. You might have to sacrifice one of those days or hybrid a couple days together, and it's fine. Like the optimization difference of like the perfect way to do it and this way to do it, maybe 15% max. Like as long as you're consistent and honest with yourself and doing what you can, you're gonna be fine. Hey guys, real quick. If you haven't heard yet, the Fitness League app is launching soon, but only to our current audience. That means if you're listening right now, you'll get exclusive early access. To lock in your spot, just click the link in the show notes and join the waitlist. No spam, just the important stuff. And in case you forgot what it is, this is the app built for busy humans who want real results without the burnout. It's not another fitness tracker, it's a movement where every rep earns rewards, every habit builds momentum, and every workout levels up your story. Train smarter, compete with purpose. The Fitness League is coming soon, where your journey becomes legacy.
Katie, I'd also urge you to think about like, is there a potential plan B that you could have? Because one of the things that she mentioned was trying to find a way to not get frustrated that like her typical morning routine or her quiet morning routine won't be happening in these types of moments. So it's tough. I would think about like plan A versus plan B. Here's what I would love to happen ideally. And it sounds like you have that a little bit in the sense of like, if I need to get up and go work out, like I just bring him down to the gym with me if he's not going to stay in bed. It might be helpful, to just think about like, what are my alternatives? Am I doing a modified workout? Am I telling him he has to go back in his bed? Is it the potential of like not entertaining anymore, that he has to come back to your bed? I think she said it was a 4-year-old, right? Like with Sloan. Yeah, like with Sloan. I don't know if you had this with Kai at all around that age, Josh, where like maybe he had a bad dream and was like, can I come in your bed? Like, can I come in your room? For us, it was always a non-negotiable no.
Hard no.
Hard no. I will tuck you back in. I will lay with you for a few minutes. I will scratch your back. Mommy will sit here and hold your hand while you fall back asleep for 5 minutes, whatever it is. But then mommy has to go back to sleep too. And I know that's so tough because if in the moment when your kid is fighting you on it, it feels like, okay, the thing that's going to get us all to sleep the quickest is to just bring them into my bed. And I just know my kid, like that would just create a monster. And I think Sloan would still be sleeping in my bed till she's 20 if I let her do that. You might not be ready for that conversation yet of like, hey, we're not doing this anymore, but you may get to that point at some point.
Yeah, it's I will not get into Kai's bed. Like I can't fit in the cribs, obviously, but I will not get into Kai's bed unless he's sick. If he's sick, I do have the sympathy and like there's something there. You feel better when you're cuddling with your parents. I'm all about that. If you have a bad dream, I will sit there for a minute and I'll rub your back and then I'll get up after a few minutes and head out just because, we want to calm them back down or whatever. But when you get into bed and then you try to peel the Band-Aid off, all you're doing is creating a second event. Like there's going to be a second episode that flares up when you try to get out, kids crying, calming them back down again. Like what take this however you want, Katie.
Sit next to her bed.
Yeah.
And like,
this is your parenting style. Yeah. Whatever you want to do with this, Katie. I personally would start that transition. Like if I was in that situation or Alessandra was in that situation, I would like, you can't do that anymore. And it's going to suck the first 3 times. And then they're going to figure it out. Like kids are very resilient. They can build up. And once they know, they know. But if you don't want to, like, I understand that.
Yeah.
Completely
We
understand that. So,
also, we also, you might find this helpful, Katie. If you have like a hatch light that you could change the colors on, you could do like a little red light, green light game where, and you could set, I know in the hatch settings, you can set it for certain times. So if at like 5:30 he typically wakes up, or 5 a.m. he typically wakes up, you can like turn his hatch light, like night light thing, to red, which means like you have to stay in your room and like you don't have to sleep anymore. Like something that we'll do with our 4-year-old is like you don't have to sleep anymore, but you have to do quiet time in your room. And so if that's like reading a book, or you want to color on your like little fake tablet thing, like you can do that, but it's quiet time. We haven't really needed that for overnight sleep with her because she's an overnight sleep champ. But sometimes on like rest time, where it's like she might take a nap, she might not, it's like no matter what, you have quiet time in your room. And then when you're allowed out of your room, we turn her light green. And that like green means go, you can come out of your room. So that could be another thing for you to potentially try to explore.
love it. Anissa, I hope I'm saying that right, wants to know how to stop looking at the scale. I typically weigh myself every day and then take the average of my weight at the end of the week, which is the way to do it. I understand there are ups and downs. However, lately I've been gaining quite quickly. I'm assuming it's due to stress and some sickness, but it's been difficult to keep my head in the game when I'm constantly feeling knocked down. I'm a teacher, and I feel like once I get better from one sickness, another one comes. These last few months have been like this. I'm sure my compromised immune system has to do with stress, and I've been working hard to mitigate it.
Hmm. Feel that. So, like Josh said, you are doing this the right way in terms of like weighing daily and then taking the averages. You understand there's ups and downs. And the nice thing, also about weighing daily is you kind of can see these fluctuations and you could start to make sense of like, I ate really late before bed last night. I noticed my scale weight is higher, or I didn't sleep good last night, or depending on where I am in my cycle, my scale weight might be lower, so on and so forth. My follow up kind of question slash comment to that is your goal to like be in a deficit right now? Are you tracking macros right now? Like, is there anything you're doing with that weight data? If not, then I would say it doesn't really matter right now in this season of life. And maybe you're really stressed. Maybe it's not the season. Maybe you have these ongoing sicknesses and there's inflammatory responses happening where we're retaining more water, so on and so forth. But if you are not like explicitly tracking macros, tracking your caloric intake, intentionally trying to sustain a deficit or something like that, then I would say you don't need to be hyper focused on even those weekly averages. It might be something that you take a step back from if it's not necessarily something that you're trying to act upon. Does that make sense?
It does, and I agree. And even if it's, a situation where you were trying to do something with that right now, but this is how you're feeling, and, we're going into sixth season as a teacher, maybe hit
Might not
pause,
be
maybe
this.
focus on maintenance, go intuitive, take progress pictures once a week. Don't worry about what the scale is saying on a daily basis and, getting that beat down. If that's how you're feeling knocked down, but just focus on prioritizing whole foods, nutrient dense options, moving your body, getting your training in consistently. You don't need to use the scale, especially all the time. And especially if there isn't an active, fat loss phase happening at the moment. Brittany is a shift worker. She works mid-shift, 11 to 11, as an ER nurse, and finding time to prioritize sleep and family has been a struggle. She's also navigating some injuries. She's 6 months postpartum and doing great until she herniated a disc in her back. 3 weeks since the injury, and she's very bummed that she's still in so much pain. Sorry to hear that, Brittany. We do have a lot of shift workers, and finding that time to prioritize all of the things is number one on the list when it comes to those struggles. So this is hopefully something that a lot of you can relate to as we kind of tackle this and unpack it. But kind of the central theme of a lot of these struggle answers are going to be as we go through this is that flexibility. And it is being consistent with the things that you can control. I believe Alessandra was talking about it in our last week's Q&A. I forget who she was referring to, but basically she was saying when it comes to the shift work, and this wasn't specific for sleep or family, but when it came to like the nutritional aspect, like when you wake up, that's when you start your day of tracking. So there's some little tidbits around that. Now, obviously it's going to depend as far as sleep and family, like what their schedules look like, the ages of those. We're not totally sure what that looks like, but if we're trying to balance this in with the health and fitness stuff, again, you got to kind of take it as you go. So on those swing shifts, so like going from day to night, or maybe it's an off day and then on day if you're typically 11 to 11 and that's your norm, I would say maybe we're not training on those work days. We're prioritizing those as recovery days and getting the sleep in and getting that family time in. And then on the off days, as soon as you get up, maybe you get the training in, and then, it's family time and you can just focus on that and just kind of unwind, unpack, decompress.
I agree.
Peyton says, lack of due to my 9-month-old waking up 1 to 2 times a night is a struggle she's dealing with. Then she starts thinking her body isn't recovering properly from heavy lifts and long runs. It is a battle between napping when my baby naps or doing my workout, which happens during his naps. I stress about my sleep debt and wonder which one will benefit me more that day. Sometimes it's hard to know what my body needs. Side note, I found this podcast 4 months into my postpartum journey and follow all 3 of you on Instagram. You've helped me in so many ways. Thank you for all the content. Thank you for being here, Peyton.
Thanks, Peyton. Yeah, look, it's no coincidence that the do it tired mantra was born when I was postpartum. Postpartum with my second baby and waking up multiple times per night with said baby. I did not have, the babies who, like little Wes over there, who was like 3 months and sleeping through the night. I didn't have those babies. Neither of my kids.
Alessandra is the queen of sleep routines, and I am forever grateful for how well she has handled. Kai was a little bit of a struggle, and she was working with Samantha Day, sleep consulting, and since then, she is such a pro. And routines, guys, even from the time they are born, you create routines, and it's a game changer.
We did too. Well, we did not do routine from the day she was born. She was a lot of contact napping and first baby, just wanted to soak up all the cuddles. But then at 7 months, I reached out to Alessandra to be like, who is that sleep person you worked with? Give me her name. I was sick week after week after week. I got shingles and I was 27 years old. I was who gets shingles in their 20s? My immune system was just shot from no sleep, and literally getting shingles was my final straw. And I was like, this is it. We're sleep training. And so we started that kind of sleep training-ish process at 7 months with Sloan, and she took to it right away. Took literally 2 days. And we were like, are we kidding? That's all this took. So then Reese, we started a lot earlier, closer to 4 months. We were still doing routines and stuff with her, but at 4 months, we were like, okay, we're going to try the method that we did with Sloan. We did that every day for 3 months of her not taking to it whatsoever. And then finally at 7 months, she took to it. And I was like, for some reason, 7 months is the magic number in my house. So anyway, coming back to your kind of thoughts and questions here, Peyton, it is really challenging sometimes to make that call between do I get the extra sleep? Do I get the workout in? For me, I have never been a napper. So if my kid was going to go to sleep, that would be the time that I would utilize for a workout if I could. Once I was already up and in my day to day, for me, the balance was I'm either going to work during this nap or I'm going to go work out. So same but different in terms of challenges. And it is kind of a stressful season of do I choose the workout? Do I choose the sleep? I don't know how much overnight sleep you're actually getting. I know it might not feel restful if you're up 1 to 2 times per night. But if you are accumulating a decent amount of sleep and you're still able to sleep in a little, or you're still getting 8 or 9 hours of sleep, or 7 or 8 hours of sleep, and it's, even though it's broken, you're still accumulating a decent amount of sleep, if I'm in that position, I'm probably getting the workout in. If I'm on 3 or 4 hours of sleep, I'm probably getting the sleep. So sometimes it's just going to be a game time decision for you. There might be days where you're I know I didn't sleep great last night, but I actually feel fine. Utilize that. Go work out on those days. There might be days where you got pretty decent sleep and you don't feel great at all. And you're I'm going to take the nap today. You have that power. And it comes back to what Josh was talking about the flexibility here, that the way we can be consistent is by not shoving ourselves into this all or nothing rule of how it has to be. You reserve the right to change your mind whenever you want and change the plan whenever you want. And so I think expect kind of inconsistency in this season, but maybe you're saying, okay, I'm going to shoot for 3 days a week. And so maybe if you at least have a number in your mind, or 4 days a week, whatever it is, maybe you can help design your schedule around that. I don't know if you have a spouse home or if the schedule changes on the weekends. Maybe on weekends, it's easier to get your workouts in. And so Saturday, Sunday are non-negotiables. And then you only have 2 weekdays to figure out to get those other lifts in. So be flexible with it. It's okay to have a rough outline as a plan to help guide you. But then sometimes it's just going to be a game time decision based on how you feel, because there's no right or wrong here.
There's one caveat I do like to throw in this situation. For myself, if I am in the latter category of so shot, but also my mental health is like, I feel very short today, very short tempered, very reactive. I still get the workout in. And for whatever reason, energy comes back, mood is better. Even if I slept good or slept bad, if I slept like crap, it's still, it's when it's not just, wow, I'm pretty tired, but when I'm in a bad mood as well, that's the trigger that says go work out, and I can push it hard. Typically after my first, maybe not the first set, but the first exercise, get through that, get into it a little bit, I feel like a changed person, brand new. So even if you're off, you might find there are these little flags that say, you know what, I should push through because of X, Y, and Z. And if it feels better, like kind of jot that down in the notebook. This helped me solve this problem. But when it comes to sleep deprivation, and I talked about this a couple episodes ago, like wearing the whoop, that is one of my triggers. Like I see that number going up and you want to keep it under 30 minutes. And it's like, well, I want to sleep this down. What I typically do, and it's going to be probably a quicker accumulation for you if you have a rough night and it's 4 hours of sleep. Like it's not going to be another 20 minutes. Like it's going to be a couple hours that you see added to that number. But I'll try to kind of grind through the week, or if you have different pockets of days that you have some more flexibility with your schedule, maybe sleeping on those. But I'll let it accumulate to the weekend and then maybe take an hour to sleep in on Saturday and Sunday and kind of reset, and then start the next week with a clean slate and do my best to get to bed on time and keep that number as low as possible consistently. But listen to your body, be as flexible as you can. Those are going to be the common denominators again through this whole section here. Cora, this is like the second time I've
Cora.
heard that name outside of our
We have a
baby.
Cora.
Says
Oh, with a
when
K.
sickness, with a K,
Cora
Cora
with
with
a
a
K.
K. When sickness hits the household, taking kids one out at a time instead of all together. Then also, if I catch it, when to know if it's okay to push my body, and when I think I feel good, but trying to prevent that relapse from happening back into the sickness. Like, what is that threshold?
I'm in this right now. I can relate, Cora. Yeah, this is tricky. It honestly is tricky. I struggle with this myself. My 4-year-old has some kind of respiratory junk right now. She's like fine. She's back in school, no fevers, but just like a lingering cough is what the doctor has said. Like that the respiratory infections kids are getting right now are just like the coughs linger forever. And so now I have her kind of like respiratory junk, but I feel otherwise fine. So you're like, okay, my method, if I don't have a fever and I'm not like coughing up a lung and like going to be coughing all over a gym and like spreading my germs everywhere, but I'm maybe congested kind of situation, I am team go try and see how you feel. That's typically my method. Knowing very, very well that if I don't feel good after a few sets, I will leave the gym and give myself permission to leave the gym. It's again that like battle of grit and grace that we talk about a lot, of like the grit of, I think I feel well enough, I'm going to try this. And then if I don't feel great, or I'm really winded, or like this morning, my heart rate was outrageous during my workout. And as soon as I started working out, I started like coughing, my like chest was hurting, and I was like, this is no good. And I did 2 exercises and I left and like called it. And tomorrow's a rest day anyway, so I'm now going to kind of rest today, tomorrow, see how I feel come Thursday. So it is very like take it one day at a time, and also like game time decision of how you're feeling. I also specifically, and not that you might have this option, but like I took my alarm off of the 5 a.m. alarm to like be back before my kids wake up. And I decided I'm going to do my workout after I drop them at school, because I knew it would give me an extra hour and a half of sleep. So like opted for that, got the extra sleep, said I feel good enough to go, but like also a little funky. Let's see how this feels. Didn't feel great, left. So I think it's helpful to be able to make that decision even in the moment. And I know it feels crappy to be like, I'm going to go and then like bail on my workout because the like overachiever in you, or at least in me, wants to be like, finish it. Like you can do it, choose hard. But I know that I will only end up worse if I push that further. So sometimes, before a workout, sometimes you're sick enough that you're like, today is definitely non-negotiable. I'm not even going to try. And then the days that are tricky are the ones where you're like, I kind of feel like I could rest, kind of feel like I could push it. And sometimes you just have to kind of try on those days. At least that's been my method. Also, when my kids, I know she said kind of like trying to not relapse or like not fall back into the sickness and feeling like, okay, I'm out of it, but like some of the other kids in my house are still sick. Your immune system post sickness is still kind of decreased. So if there are other sick kids in your house, I would recommend taking those extra precautions, like the extra sleep where you can. Maybe you're getting in bed a little bit earlier. Maybe you're using the Manuka honey. Maybe you're taking some extra vitamin C. Like take those precautions. As soon as one of my kids is sick, I'm taking those extra precautions. I know it doesn't sound like it based on how I sound right now. Yeah. I was fine. And then I traveled. And it was like the combination of like, I was doing all those extra precautions and then I flew on an airplane and was like out of routine, out of my schedule. And I was like, this is going to be it for me. I knew it. And then came home or a biometric strain.
Down for the count.
Do you have anything else to add there? Your strategy?
Yeah. I mean, you do have more elasticity, I would say, with training than once previously thought. I think people used to say, from the neck up, you can train, neck down, don't train. But there is some data showing immune cell stimulation happening from training. Now, I think where people run into the problem is trying to go full bore. So if you can scale back intensity, so say RPE from a 9 down to like a 4 or a 5, so like significantly lighter than what you typically do and significantly less volume. So just for making it easy here, let's say you had 10 sets programmed, you do 5 sets. Like you scale volume in half and you bring intensity down. I have done this pre-sick and recovering, like not full-blown sick, and I have noticed a difference. I feel better. So your body is made to kind of throw up these protective mechanisms through training. What does not have that elasticity is sleep. Getting less than 6 hours in a night, whether you're sick or not, boosts your chances of being sick by 20 times, not 20%, by a 20x. 6 hours of sleep or less, and you are in the danger zone here. So if you're traveling, you got events going on, you're staying up late, you're going out, like there's a reason that one night I've been great this whole sick season. It's the middle of winter. I've been feeling awesome. It hit me the first time I didn't sleep. That one time, you're talking about a 20 time increase. What is that? 2,000% or 20,000% increase. That's a huge number from one night of 6 hours of sleep. So just kind of keep that in mind. Recovery is absolutely king when it comes to boosting your immune system. Like it starts and ends there, in my opinion. Anonymous member 807 says, or asks for tips for managing a tight upper back and neck while exclusively pumping. Best stretches, mobility, strengthening exercises to help for context. I have a premature bub in NICU and am exclusively pumping around the clock to keep milk supply up until she can breastfeed. My upper back and neck are so sore from it. What can you tell us, Neck Rehab Pro?
First off, you mentioned having a little baby in the NICU, so I hope that they are doing well. And go you for exclusively pumping around the clock. That is, you are a superhero for doing that. And also, it does come with a lot of upper back and neck pain and soreness. So from a actual form standpoint, a few things to keep in mind as you are actually breastfeeding. If you can watch what I'm about to describe, that would be great. If you could watch this on YouTube or on Spotify so you could actually see what I'm modeling here. But it's very, very easy when you are holding your baby or nursing a baby or pumping to be in kind of like these forward positions where your shoulders are rounded, you're hunched a little bit forward. A lot of times we're texting while we're pumping or something like that. Or we're looking down at our baby or we're holding baby. We tend to really be in these forward lean positions. Also, we're coming out of pregnancy where there's so much forward lean and so much weight in the front of us that we are kind of almost stuck in this rounded position where we're not breathing down into our ribs. We're not getting that full breath in our diaphragm. And that's contributing to more stress and tension in the neck and upper back. And then the way that we're kind of holding baby or holding to feed them and so on and so forth. So some things that you can just kind of be conscious of if you are nursing. I know she mentioned pumping too. I don't know if she's nursing at all. Well, probably not because she said exclusively pumping. When you are pumping or nursing, make sure, or at least try to have your back as straight as you can and try to avoid being in those rounded positions. Sometimes out of just like comfort, or depending where we are, we can kind of, again, just roll forward into these forward positions, and it could end up putting a lot of extra stress and tension on your neck, traps, and upper back. Something that you might find really helpful is doing a little bit of just like thoracic spine mobility work. That could be really, really helpful. So if you think about like T-spine mobility, if you have a foam roller, I mean, you're probably not bringing that to the NICU with you, but you obviously have to go home from the NICU a little bit. So if you have a foam roller at home or at a gym and you're doing that or able to get that and just kind of roll, you might feel some tension release with some rolling. Otherwise, I don't know if Alessandra has like specific, like, does she have upper back mobility or like, or any of her mobility stuff separated, like thoracic mobility, upper back mobility, Josh, in
You
the
are
app or
asking the
anything?
wrong fella.
Okay.
I do not even look at that section.
Okay, me neither. But I do a lot of like upper back, neck, thoracic mobility work because of my own neck issues that I've had in
What
the
I will
past.
say, I'll jump in with our proud partners over at Active Life.
Yeah.
I believe they have a neck program that we're going to be plugging in here.
Yeah, I think they do. Active Life could be a really great resource for you. If you shoot me a message, who was it that was she anonymous? I think she was anonymous. Okay. She was anonymous. But if you shoot me a message, anonymous member 807 that asked this question, find me on Instagram, shoot me a DM. I can send you some videos that you might find really helpful, or anyone who's listening to this, if you're like, wait, I need those, shoot me a message and I could send you over some resources. It's going to be kind of like hard to describe here, but there's definitely some mobility work that you could be doing for your thoracic spine just to kind of help open up your chest and take some of that pressure off of your upper back and spine.
So we don't have a neck specific. What they had sent over for us was the back, hips, knees, and ankles, and shoulder. But I believe shoulder is still going to have an effect on your neck.
Sure might help a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, upper back, neck, it's going to be a lot of thoracic mobility work.
All right. Anonymous member 705 wants to know if you take a few weeks off after getting 6 weeks into the first running program because you're feeling so nauseated and fatigued from being pregnant, when you're feeling ready, is there a right place to start back off being pretty much a newbie? This one would certainly be an Alessandra question, but
How long did we take off?
yeah, how long did we take off? I don't think it said that specifically. She got into it for 6
So
weeks.
she was 6 weeks in and then took a few weeks off, but I don't know.
Okay.
Is a few weeks 1 or 2 weeks, or is a few weeks like 6 to 8 weeks, or the whole trimester? You know what I mean?
Yep. I think it really depends on how you're feeling with that first. If you want to try to scale back to the previous week you left off on and see if it feels to be a similar exertion, if everything got wrecked and you're feeling pretty off, I would start it back from the first workout and just hit it with a fresh slate, especially if you're not training for a race. If there's nothing coming up, there's no big problem with that. But if you hit the previous week that you left off on, feeling pretty good, just build off from that point. It just really depends on how much of that aerobic capacity you maintained through that time off. The follow-up from the same anonymous member is going to be in your wheelhouse, Joelle. Thoughts on sugar-free everything? Is it actually better than the standard? I know really whole foods and less processed is best, but in your opinions, is it worth switching everything you can to sugar-free like sodas, syrups, creamer, or is it not even worth it? Take it away.
To me, it depends on the product. And I've actually shifted my view on this a little bit in the last few years. I used to be team like sugar-free everything, sugar-free creamer in my coffee, sugar-free this, sugar-free that, sugar-free everything. And there's a few reasons that I have shifted on that now. One, I am way less worried about calories than I used to be. And for me, the sugar-free thing was a caloric argument of like, if I could have basically the 0-calorie version, then I'd rather do that. But to me, like now, if I'm to go, like, let's say, get a coffee at a coffee shop or something, I was at the airport, picked up a coffee at the coffee shop, I'm actually grabbing the sugar packet now instead of like the Splenda if it's there. A, because it tastes much better. It doesn't have that like bitter artificial sweetener taste. And B, it's like 20 calories for a packet of sugar. And I'm like, I'm not worried about these 20 calories. So one, for me, it used to be a calorie thing. Two, taste thing. For me, I would say it depends on what it is and what the product is. Like, I will never probably ever drink full sugar soda, but I do like a Coke Zero here and there. Or Josh, when you were at my house, you guys had that Canada Dry. It was a zero sugar cherry ginger ale. Target has it. It's very, very good.
That was like a Shirley Temple in a can.
Yes, it is so good. Like Shirley Temple meets like a little bit of ginger ale. Yeah, it's very good. So like I love me a zero sugar drink. I will probably never have like regular Pepsi or regular Coca-Cola simply because one, like I don't need to. I enjoy the diet version. So if you enjoy the diet or sugar-free or zero calorie version, great. There's no necessary reason to shoot for, in my opinion, the full sugar, full calorie option. But the little things like a sugar packet, like, yes, that stuff can add up if you're doing it in multiple places. But something that I've learned more about sugar in the last few years, and obviously a nuanced topic, and maybe we could do a whole separate podcast on sugar specifically, because I think there's a lot of misinformation around it. But one of the main things that I've learned about sugar is that all of the, I won't say all, most of the negative things that we hear about sugar are due to what we call a crowding effect or a crowd out effect, where we see the people who are, eating more sugar, maybe they're more overweight or they have more health issues, et cetera, et cetera. But that's because when we look at that data, most of the people consuming high amounts of sugar, what that sugar intake and caloric intake from that sugar is doing is crowding out other nutrients in their diet. So that was when I had learned that a few years ago, that was really eye-opening for me because it shifted the narrative from like, oh, like sugar is awful. Sugar is terrible for me. Sugar is going to like put my health in the crapper. Like it shifted that mindset from like, oh, if I'm not substituting something healthy in my diet or nutrient dense in my diet to sub in the sugar version, like that's where you have issues, is when the sugar is crowding out the nutrient dense options. So for me, I'm not as gung-ho as I used to be about having all the sugar free or no added sugar in any of my stuff, because in my mind, like it's not going to make me eat. If I choose this snack that has 5 grams of added sugar or whatever it is, it's not making me eat any less vegetables at dinner. It's not making me eat any less fruits or vegetables with my lunch. It's not crowding out the other nutrients in my diet. So I think that is actually a helpful way to look at it. Like, is the full sugar option going to crowd out something else, or is it not really affecting anything?
To your point, I think if someone listens or has a similar question, it's like, oh, I'm just going to swap everything to sugar-free and I'm going to be healthier for that. If you're eating the same foods, like those same things, but the sugar-free version of all of those things, you are probably not much healthier than had you just had the same version with the sugar in it, albeit maybe weight.
Minus the calorie.
Take weight. Yes, exactly. Take weight out of that. What I'm kind of getting at is if the majority of your diet is actually whole foods and like you go have a regular Coke versus a Coke Zero, not much of a difference. Like you're still going to be fine. You're going to be healthy, all things considered with calorie balance. I completely agree with the crowding, where I think another pattern that we see within this is if you're eating a bunch of high sugar things, and most ultra processed foods are high sugared, that is kind of where you're gravitating for around the whole diet. What I'm kind of getting at is those, if you're going to those sections in moderation, of course, fine. But like when everything you have is those prepackaged things, added sugars are hidden in everything. Like organic kids' healthy snacks are loaded with 12 to 20 grams of added sugar. So you've got sneaky calories, and you've got the idea that I'm consuming whole foods because it's organic and marketed as healthy. But if we're not literally filling most of our diet with the actual whole food, the single ingredient thing, we run into these troubles. So I would say, anonymous member 705, it's less about finding the sugar-free alternatives. Like if you like it, cool. If you want the regular version, have the regular version. But evaluate the other 95% of your diet. Like where are those nutrients coming from? And you're going to be in much better shape than worrying about finding the swap.
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to add one thing to that. I want to come back to the calories for a minute, because it's not nothing. If you're someone who maybe goes to Starbucks and you pick up a sugary drink that is a high calorie drink and lots of syrups in it. And then
That is a milkshake, by the way. That's not a coffee.
you're eating breakfast and maybe you're even making like Kodiak pancakes, but you're using regular full sugar syrup. And then later you're having a Coca-Cola in the afternoon. Like we're up to probably 500 calories minimum already in things that do have a sugar-free version. So if you're someone who is watching your caloric intake or you are trying to decrease your body weight, then the sugar-free swaps are really, really like low barrier ways to have the same product with basically a zero or low calorie version. So that's where I see it being really helpful for people is if you are consuming a lot of those high sugar things that do have an alternative, you could end up being 500, calories or more or less or whatever else, down by making those switches. So it context. Depends on the context.
Brooke says she's moving into an off season at work and has more time to commit 4 days to lift per week. She was doing the move program, so now she would be switching back to the build program in the app. Are there benefits to doing the 4-day split body workouts as compared to 3 full body workouts? Vice versa, are there benefits to doing full body as compared to split body workouts? She has another question, but we'll stop here for a moment. The split really depends on schedule. Like I've been all over the spectrum here. I've trained 6 days a week. I've trained for 2 hours a session. I have trained 3 days a week for 20 to 30 minutes a session. What I can tell you is that if the right movements are in there, which you're doing these programs, I know they're in there. We can personally attest to that. And you're seeing progress over time. The 3-day versus 4-day is truly preference. And I can say that with the utmost confidence at this point. Is there a perfect split? Maybe the perfect split is 4 days a week. Maybe that's perfect. But what's the difference with doing 3? Is it 5%?
Yeah, like is the volume nearly identical anyway?
Exactly.
I'd actually rather see if someone is like, hey, I could go either way with this, the 3 or the 4, and like the volume is roughly the same and like goals are nothing, no one's trying to like gain 20 pounds muscle. I would actually rather see someone take the 3 lift days and use that extra 4th day for like cardio or something that they're not, something else. If they're like, could go either way, I could make it fit, but also like, I'm just as happy to do it in 3. It's like, okay, cool. Let's use that 4th day for a different mode of exercise. Let's use that for cardio or a run or whatever else. But yeah, I agree. This is going to be mostly based on preference.
All right. Second part, neck tension question. Some months her neck flares up. Could it be a form issue? Any head, shoulder positioning tips to lessen likeliness? Specifically, lat pull downs, deadlifts, high bar row, and overhead tricep are where I notice it. For context, I did have a neck injury in gymnastic years ago.
All the neck questions today. I feel you
guys.
This is
made for you.
I've been on a 2-year hunt to help my neck issues, and now I'm finally working with someone who's fantastic, but he's local and does a lot of manual work on my neck. So let's talk about this a little bit. I'm glad that you put in some exercises there because certain pull work or certain overhead work can absolutely be causing some of that tension that could be related to like your positioning or your movement patterns, especially if you have a prior neck injury. And then we have some compensations in our like head or neck or shoulder mechanics that can load like your cervical spine in different ways because you're now trying to compensate for that pain. So a few things to keep in mind. Sometimes if we are pulling or doing an overhead movement, like a lat pull down or a high row, a deadlift, overhead tricep extensions, sometimes we can subconsciously extend our neck or elevate the shoulders under load. Like think about if you're getting a lot of trap action or lifting those shoulders when you have that weight, that's going to cause kind of an increased activation in the upper traps, even your levators and cervical like extensors. And those are typically areas that are already tight and are already sensitized after a previous injury. And then if we add like fatigue to it or poor setup, or we're just like loading those same movement patterns over and over again, that can be causing some flare-ups there. So think about from a positioning standpoint, keeping your ears in line with your shoulders. Think of kind of tucking your chin slightly back, almost like you're going to make a double chin, but like not that pronounced, just to kind of help keep your cervical spine neutral, which is basically just your neck. Gaze forward or slightly down is another good thing to keep in mind so that you have your head and neck in the right position. If you're looking up too much, it could kind of crank your neck into extension, which might not feel good. And if your neck is down too much, you might end up in flexion, which also might not feel good. So those are all kind of things to think about. Sometimes it's as simple, I don't want to say simple, but like other things that you could look at is like your pillow, the positioning of how you're sleeping. Are we getting into a really deep sleep? Are we not sleeping great? Are we sleeping on our side? Are we sleeping on our belly? And then we have our kind of like head turned all the way to one side. So yeah, there's a few things to keep in mind there. Generally, gentle like cervical mobility, deep neck flexor activation can be helpful, like a slight chin tuck. Again, I don't love like a hard chin tuck, but like scap cars can be really helpful as well. That's something you can YouTube, scapular cars, CARS, and other soft tissue work. If you could find someone in person to do some manual therapy on like your traps, your levators, even your pecs can be really helpful. Yeah. And then something that's been really helpful for me is breath work and like working really hard on that, like deep core and breath work and diaphragmatic breath work to really breathe low into my ribs and into my diaphragm instead of keeping that like chesty breath up here where you just end up with more tension in your neck and traps.
I have been a belly sleeper my entire life. And 2 weeks ago, I think at this point,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, I woke up at
Poor Josh.
4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and like my traps seized and I couldn't move my neck. And I think I freaked out. So I tried to jump out of bed and I got stuck like a turtle, flipping, like I flipped over and then I got stuck and I couldn't move. And Alessandra had to like roll me back over, drill me with a Theragun. I couldn't move my head. I had to get like deep tissue work. I spent the entire hour on my neck and on my traps. And like that was just to survive for the day. But I'm still feeling it. It's I can move my neck, thank God. Never have I experienced something like that. If she wasn't there, I would have been stuck in bed. It was that nuts. So it's funny that all these neck things are coming through now, but you're the neck queen anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of mine was, I've talked to the athletic trainer who works on my neck now about this. I think a lot of mine were just like loading, not great movement patterns. And a lot of it was compensation from like pregnancy and postpartum and breastfeeding, and then pregnancy and postpartum and breastfeeding again, back to back. And you just end up in these like positions and your collagen is changing, like your tissues are changing through all of that. You have different joint laxity. And I got just like really accustomed to loading and like my mechanics in certain positions, and it just compounded. And now, like I mean, you can't see it from here, but if you're in person with me, next time I'm with you, I'll point this out to you. But this one side of my neck and traps has like a ton of hypertrophy over here compared to my left side. And like, this is my pain side. And every time he works on it, he's like, it's literally like a bicep in your neck. And I'm like, well, can it go to my actual biceps, please? But like there's so much extra hypertrophy in that spot from like just extra compensation of those movement mechanics.
Yeah. Hey. The little things you don't notice until it's too late. And then you spend all this time trying to fix it when it would have taken a quarter of the time to just manage it to begin with. That's where I'm at. Like, it's a wake up call. And I know this and I'm still not consistent, but the mobility section that I'm not paying attention to, I need to be looking at that. I need to be doing these things.
Look, Brant's becoming a mobility king because of Alessandra's mobility work.
I cannot wait to come over and see him do like a double scissor kick because he's so flexible and mobile.
He came up from the basement the other day. He's like, this fucking Copenhagen Hanks. What is she doing with it? Who can do those? I can't do those. It's just so funny. Brant is doing Alessandra's programming and he's just getting his ass kicked. And I love it so much.
Which I'm only a little bit offended by, but I digress.
He's like, tell Josh and Alessandra, like, this is not Josh. This is purely Alessandra.
Well, he's done 2 of her programs and none of mine.
Well, he hasn't done Muscle Mommy either, for what it's worth.
In his defense there, he's not going to do Muscle Mommy.
Muscle Daddy? Do I have to make a Muscle Daddy program?
That would be hilarious. That's just...
Dad bod program.
Muscle Daddy. Go get him, Daddy. All right, we have a couple questions left. Before we dive into those, I just want to take a moment to remind you guys how grateful we are that you're here. You are the Fitness League. Everything we're doing here is for you guys. This is a free resource we provide, and we love doing it a couple times a week. On top of, we got a whole new series. I'm going to tease it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. We got a whole new series coming out for free resources that I am hoping will be out next week. We're kind of transitioning tech-wise on the back end, but that should be out. All that to say, we don't promote this podcast. There's no sponsors on here besides us just telling you guys how else you can work with us. We do ask, if you are getting value from this podcast, to just leave us a quick 5-star review. If you want to write something up real quick on that comment for the review, that's awesome too. Share us on social media, but that's how this podcast grows, and we are growing, and we thank you guys so much. We had a fantastic streak with those reviews last month. They've kind of settled down a little bit even as we continue to grow, but we haven't been putting out this reminder. So it would mean the world to us if you are getting any value from this to leave that review, because that is how new people find us. It just helps with the algorithm, and the person who can't afford to work with anybody, or, whatever the situation is, they get to use this as a free resource. So if you are finding value, somebody else likely will too. All we ask is you just do your part to leave a quick 5-star. You can pause right here, click that button, and jump right back into it. Next question is from Annie. She says that she works out pretty consistently, but every once in a while needs to take a week or 2 off due to getting sick or life just happening. When she does get back to it, she usually jumps right back in or goes a little bit lighter weight-wise. But almost every time she jumps back in, she is so sore afterwards. She's 34, but never expected the soreness to be this bad after taking just a week or 2 off. So are there any tips or advice to help with getting older, that soreness and general body aches?
Annie, you are not
old,
easing
Annie.
in. You are not easing in. You are taking those 1 or 2 weeks and then you are jumping back in and trying to pick up where you left off, which on one hand I admire. And on the other hand, that is probably why you are so sore, because I have been guilty of that as well. When you return to the gym post sickness, I would strongly advise that you don't try to pick up where you left off. I like the 50% rule just because it's an easy number to remember, to do either generally half the volume. You can 50% everything. So 50% your sets, and you could 50% your weight. At minimum, one of those. And at max, both of those. If you have 5 exercises and 3 sets, maybe you're doing 1 set or 1.5 sets for whatever, you know what I mean? And maybe you're also 50%ing the weight that you would normally use. But I would not recommend coming in stronger than 50 to 70% max for at least that whole probably first week back.
Listen, if you're tired of the all or nothing cycles, the diet starts Monday, the I know what to do, I'm just not doing it feeling, we should probably talk. Our one-on-one online coaching isn't just about workouts and meal plans. It's about building something that actually fits your life. No cookie cutter templates, no guilt, just real coaching and real results. Plus, we've got a pretty big team, so we can even pair you with an expert who actually understands your lifestyle because they've gone through it too. If that sounds like what you've been missing, check out the link in the show notes to apply for coaching. Then we'll send you the link to book a free, no-obligation consult call with our team. There are no hard closes. We won't even take your credit card over the phone. You'll get the details to sign up on your own time. And more good news, we are in fact qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. One last thing. We even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. What are you waiting for? Spots are limited, so apply today. All right, let's get back to the show. Yep, volume, simple one, just scale. It sounds like you're super gung-ho on this, Annie, and it's like, I want to get back in. You love training, and I love that. So maybe just skimp a set off the back end, bring intensity from a 9 down to like a 6, and then go for a walk or a light jog, or if you want to do some HIIT or something, like you can sneak something like that in there. Scale the volume back, and your body is going to recover 10 times better. Our final question from anonymous member 345. Admire your guys' parenting style and how you're raising your baby so much. Dare I say you make it look easy, even though I know it's not. Would love to hear the advice you'd give to someone who is on the fence about having children, specifically to someone who has a difficult relationship with their own mother. If you have not listened to our last episode, so first episode of the week, I believe this is 96, so episode 95, we hit on your environment and making changes in a good chunk of that episode. So I would recommend starting there, because you know how not to do it, or how not to do a lot of things, is from what it sounds like. You don't have to do things the same way, and you can learn and grow from those experiences. As far as some advice or what we'd say to someone on the fence, like, listen, it's your life. You got to choose what's going to make you the happiest. I will say it is an entirely different life. I have 2 versions of myself, pre and post kids, and they are not even remotely the same. But it will be the most difficult thing that you ever do and the most rewarding. And it's not even close. Like it's very difficult to understand from the outside looking in at an exhausted parent who looks like they're so short on patience and just grinding through the day. And then if you asked them, they wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, well, that doesn't look fun. There's nothing like it. And there's no way to explain it. That's, I
Yeah.
believe it's why we're here. But, if that's not in your cards for whatever reason, then it's your life. Live it how you want to live it. But there's nothing more rewarding, in my opinion, than raising a bunch of beautiful babies.
Yeah, I have two thoughts on this. Ditto on everything Josh just said in terms of it is the most incredible thing in the world. And there's a piece of you that like never really feels fully prepared. Like I always wanted to have kids, but when it was time to start trying, it was like, oh my God, are we really doing this? And then you get your first pregnancy test and your first positive and you're like, oh my God, it's really happening. And you just like panic the next 9 months because you don't know what that's going to look like. And the anticipation of it sometimes is way worse than the actual thing.
What do we call that, Joelle?
Borrowing worry.
Borrowing
My
worry.
favorite quote.
She
And
loves
by
it.
favorite, I mean least favorite. So with that, 100%, it is not easy. I like to remind myself that parenting is only hard for people who want to be really good parents. And so it also sounds like you have some difficult relationships in your life. And I don't think that alone needs to prevent it. I think the fact that you are aware of that and that maybe there's even cycles that you are trying to break and behaviors that you are trying to change, and that, it sounds like maybe even one of your fears of having kids is like, I don't want that relationship to look like what I have with my child. And that, in reference to that last episode would be a great episode for you because you get to choose how you want to move forward and you get to choose what your future looks like, even though your past has shaped you in the way that it has. By the same token, we'll never sit here. I'm happy to share everything about my own experience and how wonderful parenthood is and how hard it's been, but also how wonderful it has been. And that there has been nothing more fulfilling in my life than seeing my sweet babies and birthing them and growing them and raising them. By the same token, I have a very hard time trying to convince anyone to have kids, in the sense that you have to be so willing, is maybe a decent word. I'm having trouble thinking of a word. You have to want it so badly. And again, you could still be nervous and anxious about it and not know what that looks like. But in my opinion, you have to want to have kids so badly. Otherwise, I don't know that it's going to be the experience you want it to be. And
Explain.
And that might not be fair, in the sense like there are people who have accidental pregnancies and then have kids and they love and adore them and it's amazing and great. I think of Annie Miller, like besides Wes, because you already had kids, but like my friend Annie Miller, she had no kids. Her and her husband wanted no kids. They got accidentally pregnant. Now they're like, we want 4, and they love it so much. And they're like, this was God's plan. And like now they have 2 babies and they want to have more. And I think of her in that sense. So there's certainly those circumstances. I just have a very hard time. Like if someone were to tell me I don't want to have kids, and this may be a little bit different because she's like, I don't know, and I'm on the fence, and here's why, partly here's why. And I'm sure there's more to that story. But if you were to come to me and say, I don't want kids, I am trying to convince you 0%. I think it's different when you're on the fence. If you were to tell me I don't want children, I have no desire to do that, it doesn't feel right to me to then sit there and convince someone, no, but it's so great and you're not going to sleep for the next however long, but like, it's so great. Like there are some really freaking hard parts of it. And again, it's hard because you care, but there are some really challenging pieces of being a parent, especially being a working parent. You are revamping your life, your marriage, your finances, your businesses, your relationships, your mental health, like everything unravels. And then you are rebuilding it all again with kids. And that is beautiful and a blessing in so many ways. And I would never change my decision. And if I could, I would have a million more babies. And also, I don't think it's for everyone. And that's why if someone has their mind made up, again, different than being on the fence, but if someone has their mind made up, I'm never trying to convince them because we don't need more parents who didn't want kids. We don't need more shitty parents in the world raising shitty kids to become shitty adults. Not to
Well
say if
said.
you didn't want kids, like that you're raising shitty kids, but like you know what I mean. Like there's
Yeah,
obviously
well,
nuance to
for
this
the
subject.
podcast translation,
Yeah.
she is not saying that you or anyone in this boat is a shitty person for not wanting kids and to be a shitty parent raising shitty kids. It's not what she said. What she is saying, there are a whole bunch of unfortunate situations that lead to more unfortunate situations because they weren't careful, because they had no right, honestly, to be a parent. And it's
If
also
you are
just
not
weird to
in
try to
the
convince somebody.
if you are not in the mental state, emotional state, financial state, physical state to be a good parent, then I just don't suggest it. Maybe a hot take. I don't know. Don't
I
come
think
for me.
that could be spun as a hot take when they clip you like they clip a lot of the others and say, "Look what she
I hope
just
that
said."
I hope that wasn't offensive. I really mean it in a loving way. Like it's parenting is really hard. I love it so much and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's really freaking hard and I don't think it's for everyone.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. And I understand how you said it the first time, but
Okay.
there might be a new listener who popped in who doesn't know you very well
We're
and
gonna
is
get
like,
off this
"What?"
podcast and I'm gonna be like, Josh, erase that whole section. I don't want to
It's
upset
not going
anyone.
anywhere. It fits just fine. We just had to
I
throw in a
hope that
quick
it
little asterisk, quick
I
little
hope that it is.
clarification there.
I hope that it is understandable and is perceived well.
It is. And I will go as far as to say, anonymous member 345, that if you are on the fence, it's for the right reasons. And I would say, I'm totally with you, Joelle. I would not, anyone who says, I don't want kids, like, okay, don't have kids. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's weird to try to convince you otherwise.
Right.
Like, live your life, do your thing.
Right.
If you're on the fence, I would say you probably do want kids, but there's a whole lot of trepidation. There's a whole lot of
Right.
apprehension because it is a life changing thing. And you're very likely to be someone who has the first kid and is like, this is incredible. I'm so glad we did this. It is, everybody is nervous before they have kids. For some of us, it's a surprise. For others, it's planned and it's going to work out the way it's going to work out. God's got a plan. But yeah, I think we covered that pretty well. Amanda snuck in one more question before the buzzer. Does cardio timing matter? As far as before or after your strength workout, it works better for me to do the treadmill, incline walk usually before strength training. Any benefits or downfalls to that?
Also, something I have changed my mind on a lot because sometimes what's optimal in the research is not ideal when it comes to practical application. Technically, the most optimal thing to do is to do your cardio prior to your strength training. I'm sorry, to do your strength training. Let me back up. Is to do your strength training prior to your cardio so that you can have the energy and the glycogen stores and so on and so forth for your lifting and then do your cardio afterwards. Again, generally speaking, if you finish your lift and you're either out of time or you finish your lift and you're so gassed that now you're skipping your cardio, then that method, not ideal for you. In this scenario where you're like, I typically am doing it pre-lift for whatever reason, and that works for you and that allows you to get in your cardio and your lift, great, keep doing that. For me, it was like, okay, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to do cardio after I lift. And then what would happen? I'd finish my lift and I'd be like, don't feel like it. Or like, I'm hungry. I'm going to go home. I got caught chatting with someone and like now I'm out of time and I got to go back for a meeting. Like I'm skipping that cardio. Like it became bottom of the totem pole for me. But then I started putting it before my lifts. This was a while ago. I'm not doing this currently. My cardio and my lifts were getting it done. So again, just because something might be more optimal in research does not mean that it's optimal for you. So I am team do whatever works for you.
If you want to take that optimization a step further and really talk about throwing a wrench in your schedule,
Separate
outside of
altogether.
just order, they're not even supposed to be together. If you do cardio, so let's say you schedule it the right way, quote unquote, you lift and then you do your cardio. Well, now you're activating your AMPK pathway versus your mTOR pathway. One is for cardio optimization, one is for strength and hypertrophy optimization. So it is no longer optimal because you immediately followed up your strength session with cardio. So ideally, you're lifting first, and then you're taking a couple hours off, having a meal, and then doing your cardio. That is the optimal way to prioritize not only the adaptation, but the recovery in between those and giving yourself adequate time for the true optimization and adaptation post specific modality. So I'm with you 1,000%. It is consistency over anything and everything. If you have the flexibility to optimize, super. If you have the flexibility and you notice you're still not being consistent, not as super. So whatever it is that works for you, and you can check that box week after week, and it's not a constant struggle of, do I do it? Do I not do it? That is the end game. Whatever you're going to commit to and continue to do, and that becomes routine. I have a bunch of mantras or sayings or whatever that I just set to my reminders every week. So every Friday, one of them is just master of routine, because it always comes back to that. If you can master your routine, if it's for business, if it's for your mental health, if it's for your physical health, if it's for whatever goal you have, you master the routine, you're going to make significant improvements toward whatever that goal is. So that's where it starts. And that is where this podcast ends. We're going to wrap up the conversation with the reminder that change doesn't come in one big moment. It's built in the ways you keep showing up. Take what you learned today and build the best version of yourself for tomorrow. Where can I find you?
At Joelle Samantha.
At Josh Skutnick. And everything else is linked in the show notes.